with the dialogue and the flow of the scene, and in a sense connecting the dots where one moment leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, so that it's kind of like this easy, nice beginning, middle, and ending, and random stuff doesn't just come out of nowhere. So like, for example, like when you say this part about this whole paragraph is leading toward, and then I realized who he was, and something in me just snapped. So this whole in fact, the whole scene is leading toward that moment. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
So then you have to, if I was to tell you a story about why I did something, and I start with, well, it all started when I, grew up in Los Gatos, California, and then I moved from there to Boston, and then I ended up in San Diego, and then finally ended up in Hollywood, realizing that I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
You see how it all kind of like flows from one point to the next? Do you follow what I'm telling
Yeah.
you? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel to me like it's leading like that. Like I've asked you a question, and you're giving me an answer, and in order to give me the answer, you're sort of, it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, leading to H. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So do you understand what I'm saying to you, where it feels just sort of a little disjointed?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just kind of like moment, 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 not this moment leads to this moment, and these two moments lead to the next moment, and these three moments lead to moment 4, and then these 4 moments lead to moment 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's not moment, 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 and then big moment.
So how would you say I go ahead and I really merge the part when she's like, why isn't pregnant anymore? And then she goes ahead and she says, I used to pray a lot, because it just doesn't.
Well, then why do you
right.
say that?
Because she's basically like telling a story.
But why do you say, it sounds to me like you're asking me this question, which is a good question, which is, I don't understand how that has anything to do with the story.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the fun of being an actor, is that you get to figure that out. You have to solve a puzzle. You didn't write it. And you have to kind of find a way to make that connect. So that when you say, basically, I used to pray to God, but what kind of God kills a baby and lets the parent live? And then I heard that song, and it was the God, it was the song, it was the whole thing, there is no God, and I flipped.
Yeah.
Does that tie it up?
It does.
Does that explain to you? That's my take on why you're talking about the praying.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what you're saying, you're giving another reason why you snapped.
Yeah.
Well, it's because the baby died. I prayed. It didn't do anything. Establishing that praying doesn't mean anything, and there is no God. What kind of God would do that? And then, I was already just so freaking out about everything, and then I heard the song. And I flipped out. You follow me?
Yeah.
So, you need to look maybe, and this is you haven't done anything wrong. This is sort of the natural progression of being an actor. Like, what I'm talking to you about is a note that I would give any relatively newer actor, because we've talked about emotion, we've talked about objective. We haven't spent a tremendous amount of time on this kind of stuff where it just comes down to storytelling and how to kind of connect those dots. And that's kind of what you do, because then if you give me that natural progression, then it feels to me like it's much more human. If I ask you a question, specifically you, and I say to you, okay, well, why did you decide to stop being, a social media sensation and decide to be an actor? You would start by saying, well, this,
Mm-hmm.
and then this, and then this and this, and then this and this, and that's why. And it may not even get really loud at the end, but you can still feel it heading towards this end. And you haven't done that in the scene. What you can do is a few things. One, you can make sure that you have really, if your emotion is hysteria and your objective is what?
To get it off my chest.
So if it's to get it off my chest, then you have to kind of figure out, well, how can I tie hysteria and to get it off of my chest into, why I'm saying what I'm saying, and at the same, while doing that, how does, me saying this tie into the preceding moment with regards to hysteria and getting it off my chest. And then the moment before that is still hysteria to get it off my chest, but if I have hysteria going and my brain is thinking get it off of my chest, what's going on with me that drives me to say that line about there is no God? And that's that next step of looking deeper into the material, because you could say it, but if it's not really connected, to you really exploring what's driving her to say, it's not just emotion and objective. That's not everything with this technique. And that's why substitution is really a great thing. Substitution is not a method thing. Substitution merely gives you a vibe of how it could feel similar.
Yeah.
My example of you getting out of being a reality star and becoming an actress, and you telling me that story. That's an example similar to this.
Yeah.
Or if I said to you, hey, how did you meet Paul? Well, we met here, here, and here, and then finally, and then we got married.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it all has a beginning, it has a flow. Can you do that with this scene by Thursday?